Hi everyone, Cartoon McDowell here, and today we're going to be talking about civilization. In the last AP Summer video, we talked about the discovery of farming and humanity's long, slow transition away from hunting and gathering into settled societies. Today, we're going to look at some of the most common characteristics of societies in a lesson that used to be labeled the characteristics of civilization. Before we go any further, you need to know that civilized is a loaded word that's meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people through the years, and normally it means people who are like me. For example, the ancient Greeks considered anyone who didn't speak Greek to be a barbarian, and thus uncivilized. And the ancient Chinese considered non-Chinese to be barbarians, and thus uncivilized. Meaning that two of the most impressive civilizations in all of history wouldn't have considered each other to be a civilization. What I'm getting at is this. Always think about how you use the word civilization. If you use it to refer to a settled society, cool. If you use it as a pejorative term to insult people who aren't like you, not cool. It should also be known that not all civilizations had all of these characteristics, but I'm going to list 9 of them, and if a society has more than 5, it probably qualifies as a civilization. By the way, you should write these down. Number 1, excess food. This one is the building block of all the others and basically always depends upon having farming as a food supply, though there are some nomads that have used herds to ensure that they have enough food instead. Number 2, developed cities. Having enough food means that you can settle down, and settling down means that you can do basically all the other characteristics we're going to talk about. Cities are almost as important to cultural development as food supply, partially because they enable 3. Specialization of labor. Once you have excess food and a place to stay, not everyone has to farm. Now your city can have artisans, builders, blacksmiths, and so on. And when those folks start to make surplus goods, you arrive at characteristic number 4, trade. Trade enables a city or state to access goods they don't have in their own lands, and to increase their wealth. It even creates one of the most important social classes, merchants. Speaking of social class, Number 5, labor hierarchy. Civilizations tend to be stratified, and most early civilizations, regardless of size or location, share a shockingly common social structure. Kings and priests at the top, warriors up next, followed by artisans and merchants, then farmers, and in most civilizations, unfortunately, slaves. Basically, settling down created the idea that some jobs are worth more than others. Anyone can farm, it takes someone special to speak to the gods. Number 6, patriarchy. Yeah, this one's going to make everybody a little bit uncomfortable. Nearly every civilized society featured some degree of sexism, especially early on, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Settling down increased the rate of pregnancy for women, and more pregnancies meant that women could do less work because, well, being pregnant is really hard. Plus, farming requires a large amount of physical strength, especially early farming, when access to domesticated beasts of burden was limited. And the average male tends to be stronger than the average female. There are exceptions to that rule. As a result, men came to take increased status in early societies, which was soon codified into laws. One of the first written law codes allows a man to break his wife's teeth with a brick if she disagreed with him. And women will be considered second-class citizens in most civilizations until... actually, it depends on where you're talking about and who you ask. Did it suddenly get really hot in here? Back to the characteristics of civilization. Number 7, centralized government. Technically, this is a variation of social structure, but early settled societies tended to create a government, usually hybridizing secular, that is, worldly authority, with religious authority. Early civilizations were all monarchies or aristocracies. The idea of sharing power with the lower orders was not gonna happen. Please note that characteristics 5, 6, and 7 can all be directly contrasted with the mostly egalitarian societies of hunter-gatherers. Number 8, religion. Basically every society, at least until the rise of nationalism in the 1800s, was mostly unified by religion. It gives people a common sense of purpose, a common sense of values, and a common sense of what happens after death. Among early societies, religion also gave leaders increased prestige, since they could either talk to the gods, were chosen by the gods, or, in the case of Egypt, were considered living gods. Number 9, writing. Writing started out as a way to keep records of transactions amongst early civilizations. Bob gave 4 goats to Ed for 7 chickens, that sort of thing. As time went by, civilizations adapted writing to not only keep records, but also to tell stories and record history. Written records are what enable us to know what happened over 5,000 years ago, and it's impossible to overstate the significance of writing to the historical record. Most historians consider the advent of writing to actually be the start of history, though it should be noted that early sources tend to be more government propaganda and less actual history. And that's actually it. Those are the characteristics of civilization. Honestly, a huge amount of the rest of AP World is going to be comparing and contrasting how each society reflects those various characteristics. And we'll look at some of those societies in our next episode. And that's all for today. Hope you learned something. Bye.